Hello, and welcome to today's episode of Mitten Backstage. Thanks so much for joining us. I am chatting today with Jeff Baldus. Now, Jeff is a Grand Haven-based bass player who I gig with frequently in the BlueWater Kings Band, a wedding and corporate network of different Michigan and some Chicago area musicians just playing different events and different concerts and things. And he also works for C3, a spiritual community in Grand Haven that, there's no religious dogma attached to it, but it focuses on engaging people in, inspiring stories and calls to action from different speakers and highlighting local talents and artistry. So he has an office actually right across the hall from me at Third Coast Recording Company, where he does that work during the week. And it was great to chat with him about, being a creative nowadays, the different avenues you can take, some of the interesting spectacles that come from this kind of online, landscape of being a creative. So it was nice to chat about a few things today. If you like today's podcast episode and you want to contribute to my podcasting efforts, you can head on over to patreon.com/DutcherSnedeker. There you can contribute at different tier levels to get early access to every podcast episode in audio and video format, exclusive merch, and more. You can also head over to DutcherSnedeker.com to see everything else that I'm up to around the internet. Why don't you head over there to the old blog page? I have a new set of album reviews that are out, so you can read through those and check out some new music, as well as some music that I've recorded and videos that I've done. So all of that is on my website. And don't underestimate your social currency. You have the power to share, follow, like, subscribe, all the different things, all the different terms for different platforms, whether you're watching it or listening to it. It helps push the podcast out into the algorithmic ether and connect it with more people. So I appreciate those gestures as well. All right, let's get right into today's episode with Jeff Baldus. Yeah, thanks for carving out a little time to chat.
Yeah, man, my pleasure.
Yeah, it's funny that, between BlueWater Kings and then the Third Coast thing, I feel like I went from like I see you sometimes to seeing you most months.
Yeah.
Yeah, just all the, I don't know, it seems like you've had a busy BlueWater Kings season this year. I don't know if that's been the case or...
Oh no, it definitely has. I feel like it was double.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I was thinking about it. I think I did 35.
Oh yeah. That's a lot.
Yeah, I was really surprised. Usually about August I start to feel burnt out, but this year it didn't happen until last week.
Yeah.
Last week I was like, okay, I'm done.
Yeah, I have a wedding tomorrow, and it's the details of it are, I guess you're on the wedding too. It's
am I? Yeah.
Yeah, and it's the first BlueWater Kings wedding I've had in about a month. I've had other wedding gigs. I think I played Chris Cranix a couple weeks ago and Steve Leafs last week, and even though it's the lineup's easy, it should be an easy night, it's in Grand Rapids, there's still that part of me that's just my defense is up, what's gonna happen? There's gonna be something.
Yeah, totally. I had last weekend I had a full, or it was Friday, Saturday, but then I also did a cocktail hour full gig on Thursday, and it was everything went smooth, but Friday was like a nightmare. Like, it was like people showed up just right in the nick of time without, they weren't prepared with their equipment, and then they didn't know the songs, and it's like, there's like one person. If there's one person in the band that doesn't know the songs, you're kind of screwed all night, So everything else went fine, but it was just kind of like, come on, man, like, where are your stuff? It's not like they're difficult songs,
No, and especially when it's like, if there's like 3 things you have to do for any of these gigs, it's like, just show up with a decent amount of time to like load in and get set, like make sure your equipment's good to go and know the music.
Right.
It's like
That's all you need. I mean, you don't have to be technically amazing. You don't have to, you don't have to be the greatest musician to do it. It's just preparation, really.
Yeah, or even just like a little bit of like, it's like preparation and then like a little bit of like being able to be flexible, since all those,
Totally.
Yeah, like whether it's the band or a surprise from the bride last minute, or
Right, yeah.
whatever happens.
Yeah, we ended up that gig, we ended up going like completely off set list at one point. So it was kind of like mayhem towards the end of the night, where we're just like picking tunes out of the air, and like in between songs, the lead turn around and be like, hey, do you know this song? And it'd be like, check the iPad. Yeah, I got a chart. Like, we can do it. Let's do it. And everyone, it's weird too. I've noticed this dynamic. Like, sometimes the whole bridal party will have like the greatest night of their lives, and the band will be like, what the hell just happened? Like, this was awful. Like, I feel terrible. I want to go home and like just like cope somehow, find find my coping mechanism.
Yeah, that's always the worst feeling, where it's like it never, like, it feels like rarely does it line up perfectly, where like, yeah, the band felt good, everything felt good, the bride and groom were chill, the food was good, the night was good, everything ran like fairly smoothly.
Right.
It's always like, oh, the wedding party had an amazing time, and then anyone around that was like just suffering.
Right. Vendors are all pissed because they had to walk their plate to their car through the rain, or like to go eat, or the bar manager is like, that drummer's had too many drinks, or somebody. It is such a rare thing when everything just falls into place and it works out perfectly. It's almost like, I think I've had, out of all of those weddings, I think I had 1 or 2 that were really like that all summer long.
Yeah. Yeah, I'd had, a handful that were like this is gonna work out great. And other times it's like, or most other times there's some weird, like, oh, the venue's weird, or the planner's weird, just somebody's who has like a position of how they can control the night, they end up making it worse.
Right. Or it's like a crazy aunt or uncle that has decided that they need to help in some way.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I've thinking of I don't know, the fall. It's, in terms of like less wedding gigs, I think I have 3. Yeah, I have the one tomorrow, and then I have 2 Yeah, 2 of them in December, and then I don't have any in November. And I'm almost
Nice.
done for the year.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, it's like nice to feel like I'm slowing down a bit, but then kind of like anxiety inducing because I'm like, did I save enough money? Did I overextend myself as far as like, is it gonna be January? I'm gonna be like, do I need to sell some stuff? Like I
Right.
don't want to be there, but like it's kind of I have this Saturday and then the next 2 Saturdays, or no, the wedding tomorrow and then the next 2 Saturdays.
Oh yeah.
And then I get like 2 weeks off. And then
Oh nice.
December it's kind of like filling up kind of rapidly. I'm turning 40 on the 3rd of December.
Oh,
And
okay.
I got a BWK offer and I was like, for the first time ever, I didn't just say yes, because I'm always just like, yep, I'll do it, I'll do it.
Yep.
So I sat on it for like a whole week and kind of deliberated and talked to my girlfriend. She convinced me to say no to it because it's my birthday.
Right.
And I'm like, okay, yeah, that makes sense. And then almost immediately, it was probably like 45 minutes later, I got a call from somebody else to do a gig on that same date. And I was just like, awesome, thanks for the offer, but I just said no to this like really good money. And I'm not gonna like turn around and say yes to like a gig that's gonna pay like half of it.
Yep.
So yeah, it's like December. I have a handful of Christmas parties. Um, but January I have completely off.
Oh wow.
Yeah, I have nothing. I'm like, I might like try to get out of town.
Yeah. I'm glad that I have I'm doing the musical again at West Shore Community College in Ludington, and they're doing kind of a what is it? I'm there as the rehearsal pianist, but then I also kind of coordinate with the theater director and the pit director to make sure everything's on the same page from rehearsals.
Mm-hmm.
And this time around they're putting me in a I guess a donor of the college has a lakeside cottage that he like rented out to the school.
Oh, cool.
So I was like, that's sweet. I get a couple of months, just it'll be like a working vacation of sorts.
Yeah, so you just get to go stay up north and do how many
Yeah.
rehearsals is that a week? Like, is it every day?
It's Monday through Thursday. So I'll have like Monday through Thursday evenings. Sometimes I have to come in a little earlier or stay later. Um, and then it's a shorter run than last year because they had the musical right before things shut down.
Mm.
And since it was a longer schedule, I was able to like take time off to go to NAM and like, I only needed to take 2 dates to go to NAM. I don't think I'll go this year. This next coming up winter NAM. I might try and go to the summer NAM, but it all depends on Earth Radio's calendar.
Right,
what we're
yeah.
working on.
Yeah, it's exciting, man. The new album and you guys are playing Saturday night in Muskegon?
Yeah, yep. We're playing at Unruly Brewing and doing kind of a Halloween themed. I mean, it's this weekend, so
Yeah,
Halloween
right.
themed show with Flexidecibel, and that should bring out a lot of Muskegonites to,
Yeah.
hang out.
I'm gonna try and get there. That's not something you need tickets for in advance.
No, I think I think it's $10 at the door. And
Nice.
I think they have an event. They have a band like, or maybe a couple bands earlier in the day. They're kind of making a full day out of it. So
Oh, cool.
yeah.
Yeah, I have a gig in Grand Haven from 1 to 5. So I'm gonna do that, and then we decided we're gonna go get like costumed up and then come and check you guys out because I don't have anything later on.
Oh, nice. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm stoked.
Yeah. And I'm excited thinking of the new album. This is the first time the band, usually how the Earth Radio is recorded, at least our last couple albums, they've all been, like we start the recording process kind of early in the year, like late January, February, and then we get everything ready for like a summer release. But things kind of get haphazardly, like, oh, a single's coming out. We kind of have a video. We have, the things are kind of pieced together. But now that we have this record being worked on in the fall, we have more time to like think about how we're presenting it and, creating things to support it and, being able to put out the album towards the top of our, our show dates for the summer and, like just kind of organize things a little bit better. And
Definitely.
I'm definitely gonna seek out a promoter. I've been seeing what Lee Heerspink has been doing with his album. He shares all the updates with his promoter, and she's doing a great job.
Yeah. Oh, that album sounds amazing. By the way, you sound amazing on it. By the way.
Oh, thanks.
I'm like, yeah, I was like, I didn't realize it came out because his CD release isn't for another couple of weeks.
Right.
But then I played with him last Saturday, and Joe Hedinga was there, and he was like, Lee, your album's awesome. And I was like, it's out? And he was like, yeah, it came out like a couple of weeks ago. And so I listened to it on the way home, and then the whole day on Sunday when I was traveling, I listened to it, and I was just like, oh my gosh, I get to play with these guys regularly. Like, this is like top notch, like should be like charting, like Billboard jazz charts should be getting blown up by this album.
Thanks. Yeah, it was that session came together so effortlessly. I can't even remember if we did 2 days. I think we had like one main recording day, and then I had to do some overdubs on piano. I forget which track. I think that it's "See You Soon." I'm trying to remember the name of the track. It's like a New Orleans-y kind of catchy melody. That I went to Troubadour recording studios in Lansing, and they have a Steinway, so that was a nice like overdub.
Yeah. Lee said that he was like, I tried to chart it out as much as possible, which I think is brilliant. And he was like, and we tried to make it as complex as we could to still be able to get it done in one day, like basically a 1-day session.
Right.
And I'm like, I don't know how many times I've been in bands and like we go to the studio and like it'll take all day to like get the drums tracked for like 2 out of 8 songs.
Yep.
And then you're like, oh sweet, I've been in the studio all day and we have like a tenth of what we need to get done.
Right.
And we played 2 or 3 gigs that no one got paid to be able to play or to be able to pay for this one session. You know, I guess like certain genres of music kind of lend themselves to being able to do something in 24 hours, I feel like.
Right.
But it goes back to that preparation, you know, like if you have charts and you know the music and you're with like exceptional players, you ought to be able to go in and cut something in 1 or 2 takes, you know, and keep it fresh rather than beating it to death, or in some cases like having a whole album's worth of material and then playing it live for like 3 or 4 months before you go into the studio to cut it, so everyone knows it, like, you know, top to bottom.
Yeah.
And then you cut the album, but then, you know, when you release it, none of your fans really care because it's not new music to them because they've been coming out to see you, you know. So it's like, how do you do that? I mean, Earth Radio, you guys cut yours in what, like 3 days, 4 days?
Yeah, we spent 3 days tracking and doing the majority of the overdubs. I think there's still a little bit of vocal stuff, and then, you know, until everything is final said and done, there's always a chance that there might
Sure.
be an overdub of some kind. But so far we're planning out our third mixing session sometime, I think, next week. But and Kevin's been doing some edits and stuff behind the scenes to keep things moving. But yeah, and that was just because of, we had been playing, like, I guess on the record as a band, there are really only three. Well, there's 4 new songs, and then there's a 5th song that's one of Hannah's that she never recorded, but we kind of rearranged how we had played it in the past. And, you know, we had the one we've been playing this summer, Stop Calling Me, the goofy, like, love song to telemarketers.
Yeah.
And so that helped with this record being a little bit more focused in terms of like tracks and how much time. It was easier to do some pre-production and, you know, sculpt the skeleton of it in rehearsals, and then be able to track it as a full live band with scratch vocals, just to have, you know, that go way quicker.
Yeah. Yeah, it seemed like it because I remember talking to Kevin about the last record, which was like you guys did it like in the heart of lockdown, didn't you? Like,
Yeah,
where he was like, yeah, I had nothing to do but track, you know, Earth Radio.
Yeah, we had worked in sessions, and I had driven down from Ludington to do sessions, and we had been workshopping the music kind of the later half of 2019, and then once the lockdown happened, it allowed you know, Kevin and Hannah and Justin, mainly, sometimes Madison, would join on, you know, Zoom and do these mixing sessions, and that, yeah, kind of took shape over the, you know, the first couple months of quarantine, just being you know, having remote sessions and being like, yeah, I think we're hearing the same thing. Like, Zoom we can turn off some of the, you know, was it turn on original sound or something to allow like whatever setup you have to hear unfiltered audio or something.
Oh man,
Yeah, it's
where's
like,
that setting?
I don't know if it's on mobile, but I know it's on on PC because I had to do it last year for a project that this composer just was trying to make, not really like a a metered out like piece that you'd have to track remotely. It was more of an exercise in like cross country music making over Zoom, and then just it it involved like you needed a flower pot and some kind of thing to strike the flower pot with. And there were like prompts on like a very basic like text score of just like, oh, here's kind of what your portion's gonna sound like. And I was with people who were in the Grand Valley New Music Ensemble, and we just like did our piece, and then it was added to like different groups around the country in this big stream that happened in the summer.
Cool. So it was like a big kind of collage of like groups of people doing their thing over Zoom, and then somebody was like curated all of it and put it together.
Yeah, it was like they had each group there was a predetermined like, okay, you're going to be 6th or you're going to be 10th, and then who, I forget the composer who arranged it, but at least put the concept together. He made he set up the Zoom calls. So we all got on a Zoom call, and then we had to connect to their continuous live stream. So it was like, I think over, I want to say 5 or 6 hours, maybe a little less, but over that chunk of time, it was just a bunch of different groups doing things in like one long live stream, and people were queuing up other ensembles like, okay, you're on in 10, you're on in 15.
Oh wow.
And
that's crazy.
Yeah, it got me really comfortable with Zoom early on.
Yeah, this is actually like my first, outside of a few family parties that I had, this is kind of like my first real Zoom call. So that's kind of cool. And I was like, came into the office, I was like, I wonder if he's going to be like across the hallway, and we're going to, like, I was like, it'd be hilarious if we, like, you were just in your office across the hallway, I was over here.
Yeah.
But we were Zooming because you can record it, right? Easier with, you can just set it all up.
Yeah, and Zoom has the built-in recording, and eventually, like yesterday, I did I guess it's called the My Music Podcast, but MI Michigan Music Podcast, hosted by people in KJ and the Good Time Family Band out of Grand Rapids. And great podcast. I don't know when it'll come out, probably a couple months later, but their setup was like, they had 2 SM7Bs on a cloud lifter, and then like an omnidirectional mic for me, and just had it all running in through, I think, an Apogee interface. I didn't get a glimpse of it, but the shape of it looked like it. And just recorded to their MacBook, and we were just at their dining room table. But they don't film it, they just do audio. So I, eventually, if I could get the equipment and just be able to have like, I think of like Dogtown Studio. They have when I was there this weekend, they had mounted like, just really sturdy mechanical arms that they could mount lights to, or cameras, or whatever they needed to put. And there's, a couple on either wall, and then one on the ceiling. And then they have like movable, stands and other things to be able to place things. So it'd be nice to like find a way to do that in like Studio B, and just have like a couple stationary cams, and then like a wide shot for, the full table or wherever the guest would be seated.
Right.
It's yeah, by then I'd want to have another person helping me edit, but
Oh, totally. Yeah. Um, yeah, this whole podcast, uh, what would you call it? It's almost like a new type of media, or it's like, I mean, it's
Mhm.
not that new, but I mean, it's kind of like the Wild West as far as like what hits and what doesn't. And it seems like the barrier to be creative and produce something is really low.
Mhm.
Um, like I don't. Does this lav mic? Are you picking it? Does it sound okay? How does it
Yeah,
sound?
I think it sounds good. It's probably more the room, there's not a lot of like things to soak up reflection, but it's not to a normal person to just be like, okay, he's talking, but
Well, that's good. Yeah, because I mean, I got these to be able to do like, I want to do a set break podcast. Like,
right.
I want to like go, like everyone's hanging out outside on set break. I want to have like just two of these little mics and be like, here's a mic, tell me a war story, or, like just have like a good sounding mobile setup that I could do that because it's really intriguing to me. Like you're doing 4 podcasts now or 3?
Just yeah, 3, but yeah, 3 is a lot, and partially
Yeah.
why I have it set up, the way that I do, where I'm not like, in a perfect world, if I were to, get to a level of production with a podcast, it'd be like, okay, I have someone who's like helping keeping, like, oh, there's a set, there's consistent cameras, there's consistent
Hmm.
lighting, coloring, like everything's very, uniform, or like aesthetically to, some sort of presentation. And then uh, you know, do what you can from there. But I also noticed, I think of like the Daily Show when they went mobile, and even
Hmm.
their podcast they have now, Beyond the Scenes, that Roy Wood Jr. hosts. They, that's all Zoom. It's people with headphone mics in their offices, and it. I don't know how much time is spent, probably cleaning up the audio and just kind of doing what they can with the video. But if
Right.
if a professional, you know branch of like like Daily Show's owned by Viacom, like you think Viacom could just
Right.
throw a bunch of money at that to make it a high quality production. But if they're like, no, you guys could do this for a low budget, maybe because they don't want to spend the money, but they
Yeah.
uh
Well, yeah.
it's like, okay, if or like, if everyone who thinks of podcasting at least has heard Joe Rogan, and he started with
Sure.
a very basic webcam, and like, running OBS with like very basic like headers and other icons, and it was just, you know just trying to run it without really understanding a lot about audio or video. And then
Right.
now it's the thing he has today.
Right. Which is very it's like basically a television studio, isn't it? It seems like when you would like, if you watch it, it's like almost like watching Howard Stern back in the day. When they, it's like full on, full production. He's got a full team, doesn't he? Like, you know,
Yeah, yeah, it's like a full team to help, or like, yeah, like him, or Kev on stage, the comedian, like his whole enterprise is like he's got a team that helps with
hmm
taking the content and clipping it and posting it different places and marketing it, and
right,
and now I feel like podcasting is another one of those things that like a lot of creatives are just going to start doing. I've seen a lot more people just trying it. Like my friend Kellen, who plays with Neil Francis on guitar, He's got a podcast that he calls Sound Guys Across America, and he films it on like an old 90s camcorder, and has
Sweet.
good audio, and
Yeah.
just talk, it's like each episode's on like Instagram, and it might be like 10 minutes, 8 minutes, and it's just them telling a story about running sound at like, oh, what's it like to, like, I think the episode coming out soon is he talked with a guy who had worked or he had started out in New Orleans and then moved to Denver for like 20 years, worked for Red Rocks, and now he's moving back to New Orleans. And so it was like, oh, tell me about running sound for thousands of shows at Red Rocks.
Yeah. Wow.
Like, that's
What a gig
crazy. So
yeah, but it seems like there's been a shift, and I think COVID has really been the catalyst. But it seems like for a long time, like audio and video quality were like what everyone was after. You gotta have the best video quality, you gotta have the best audio quality, you gotta have, everything's gotta be perfect. No one's gonna like it if it's not perfect.
right.
And then like all of a sudden nobody can leave their house. Everyone still needs to create things.
Yep.
And but it almost seems like it slowly kind of happened where we gave up our idea of what's like acceptable audio quality to have access to more like to like with the iPod or like just MP3s. Like now it seems like audio quality doesn't really matter, video quality doesn't really matter.
Right.
It's all about like what you're saying.
Yeah.
So it's become like almost like more so about your ideas than about the equipment you use to capture them, and that's really exciting to me. Like,
yeah.
I don't know. I mean, I had this thought the other day. I remember being a kid, and my mom was like, "What do you want to be when you grow up?" And I was like, "I want to be an idea guy." And she's like, "Well, what does that mean?" I was like, "I want to get paid to have ideas." She's like, "Well, there's not really any job where that's like your job."
Right.
But now I'm thinking, podcasting is kind of, that's like just the ideas are what is now what people want.
Right. Yeah, there's so many people with podcasting platforms that they don't even, there's no solution to anything discussed in a topic. It's just like, oh, they just talk for 2 hours about whatever.
Yeah. Yeah, totally. And even like I don't know if you checked out at all Kent Dobson, who is like the lead guy here at C3. He's got a podcast. It's called Hints and Guesses. And his whole point is that he's not trying to solve any problems. Like he's trying to like poke holes in your ideas and ask questions that make you think and get you outside of your framework that you have. And it's like super helpful to like listen to something like that. Because it kind of lets you come to your own conclusions, I feel like. Like you could jump to your own conclusions.
Yes. Like just that's always helpful too, having a discussion, and then there's just somebody, you almost need that for certain ideas too. Like I think of weddings, like there's so many people who the picture of a wedding in their head is like, okay, what dress am I going to wear? Am I going to ride it on a horse? Like, where am I going to am I going to have it on the lake? Is it going to, where are we going to stay? What's the honeymoon? It's like all the fun, you know, like living the fantasy become reality type thing.
Mm-hmm.
They're not going like, all right, if we're going to hire a band, logistically, where is power and how do we get it to the band?
Yeah.
And it's like, that's why the wedding planner is there to coordinate with the band leader, to coordinate with, you know, the producer to
right.
It's
right.
Yeah. You
There's
need
so many
someone
levels.
poking holes and just, I guess, poking holes and kind of expanding on like, you know, like I think of there's a podcast that it was called Frenemies, and it was hosted by like two YouTube personalities under the H3H3 podcast umbrella. And it kind of blew up, you know, for a multitude of reasons. Like there's still online wars between comments and fans of these people, but there's clearly like this person's in the right and this person thinks they're in the right very strongly, even though they're not. But part of what caused a rift was like, you know, one host would only give ideas and that's it. Like would only be like, yeah, we should go bungee jumping. And then it's like, okay, now it's up to the dude who owns the company running the podcast to like, okay, what does that look like logistically? Do we need to sign waivers? Do we need to hire safety people? Where do we do bungee jumping? When can we do bungee jumping? Can we even do it with COVID? Like what?
Right.
You know, like, and then, you know, the next week would be like, oh, why don't you ever do any of my ideas? Like we should go jump out of a plane. It's like, okay, where do we go?
Right.
Like logistically, like moving a staff and then filming that. And then like, you know, there's so many things that go into making stuff.
Totally. That's like that's why you need your whole crew of people that make it happen, you know, and then, cause I want that guy's idea that's like, let's go jump out of a plane. And then, you know, he's just like over here, like thinking of the next cool thing before it even happens, you know?
Yeah.
Because then 10 other people are like, oh my God, can we jump out of a plane? How do we jump out of a plane? Yeah. And I don't know. It's probably not even, it's not realistic or possible to think of like being that person, but it's kind of like eventually that would be great to be the guy that's just like coming up with ideas and telling people to make them happen.
Right. Like some sort of executive producer or something.
Totally. Yeah, man. I want to,
yeah, it's
executive producer. That's the idea, guys.
Yeah, at least from what I understand, an idea person who also, I guess, also producer credits can be given more. Maybe a director is. I'm thinking of like the film industry. Like an executive producer might be someone who just put up money for, you know, hiring the cast or
right.
the crew.
That's what I thought it was. The deal was with them.
Although a studio, like, you know, having Paul Clemson work with Earth Radio as a producer, like he had things he would do, like things he'd set up and things he'd record and track and stuff, or help us record and track, but he also had ideas, so I guess there's that aspect too, like slightly different role for the same name of a title.
Right. Yeah, I feel like producers do more. I mean, it seems like if you're a producer, at least the producers I know are involved somewhat in the engineering of it, somewhat in, like, they kind of have their fingers in engineering, the writing side, pre-production side. Like, if as far as film goes, they're kind of informing the director. You know, it kind of feels like they're kind of just like the sauce that gets mixed around into everything.
Yeah, they have enough knowledge of how each team should be working to like go in and make sure things are happening.
Right. Hmm.
Yeah, it's
Oh, maybe I should be a producer.
yeah, it's you know, I could add that to my title as a podcast producer.
Totally. You are a podcast producer.
Producing them.
Right.
And well, and then I think of like, you know, like YouTube has such a wide variety of like what type of stuff gets produced. And you know, sometimes you can all feel like the same thing, like, oh, a reacts channel. Like, what more production could you have than just watching a thing and reacting to it? But some people have, you know, they've made different like I think of like Scary Pockets. They have their like professional musicians react series where they have people from
Yeah.
the Scary Pockets umbrella like talk in depth about a song and its arrangement and recording and um more than just, you know, someone who's just watching a compilation of like, you know, like, oh, this is a hydraulic press compilation and we're going to see different things get smushed in a hydraulic press and I'm just going to make
Right.
faces and go, whoa, that's crazy. And then, you know, here's $10 million or whatever these people get.
Right. Right. Or I'm gonna watch all these funny videos and try not to laugh.
Right.
And don't forget to smash like and subscribe.
Yeah.
Because I come out with these every week. And I mean, it seems like a pretty easy gig to be making videos like that. But how do you tell? I mean, there's such a variety of what people like now online. How do you tell what's worth putting your energy towards? Because like anything you could do that you might think is the stupidest thing ever,
Could be a hit.
someone might just like fall in love with it and share it with everyone they know, and they'll share it with everyone they know, and then all of a sudden like you're internet famous for doing something that you think is stupid. But then ironically you're famous for it. You know, how do you know? Like, what do you, is there any kind of metric for gauging what you think's really going to pop these days, or you just try
it,
to do everything?
I feel like there's like a weird social science aspect in some cases where you can like I noticed with like the with how my YouTube algorithm sets up my home feed, the types of thumbnails that will appear. It won't even be like everyone I'm subscribed to, but just and not and things that I'm not even subscribed to, but it'll like it'll keep a record of like, okay, this is the type of content you're watching, but then this is also kind of the whether it's like how an emotion is presented or like is it a thumbnail that's like a dude with like a white outline of his frame set against something in the background, like that type of thumbnail, or
Mm-hmm.
the thumbnail that's like a heavily photoshopped, like overly exaggerated emotional, like, oh, make the eyes bigger, the mouth wider, or like you know, they're like,
Right.
oh my goodness, what you know, like
Yeah.
like
Like,
there's people who just they joke about that, making it for the thumbnail. Like they'll stream something and when they know it's going to be clipped for YouTube, they're like, all right, we got to pick the thumbnail, and they'll just do a bunch of like different poses and then be like, one of those will work.
right. But
um
then YouTube's algorithm dials it in specifically for you
mhm.
on what you've, so are we all just now like a slave to the algorithm?
Yeah, it's weird because like the the you know the virality of stuff kind of trumps the algorithm first, but then it ultimately just gets added to it of just like, you know, like a video gets popular that you don't think, or you know, someone like Mr. Beast getting popular when he started out as a high schooler just streaming, absurd challenges like I'm going to read the dictionary. And then, 8 hours later, he's still reading the dictionary. And there's people in the chat just like commenting as he's reading and he's interacting. And now all of his content is like, it has to be this huge spectacle so that it goes viral. Like it has to get like tens of millions of views to like earn enough money off of ad revenue, and then like a percentage of that viewer base buying the next merch drop, and also becoming a percentage of that spending audience buying YouTube memberships, like if subscribing for like $5 a month or whatever it is to get like premium chat stuff. That and then he's he works in sponsors and other things, but like you there's no there's no business model for that. Like, hey, if you just read the dictionary and do absurd things when you're a high schooler, you'll be able to do videos in 5 years with your friends. Like, I ordered a pizza and tipped the delivery driver the house.
Right. Like thanks for the pizza. You live here now.
Yeah, there's like no, or like another channel like Game Grumps. They started as a Let's Play channel with no face cam, which all Let's Play channels have the face cam for the the visual reaction. They've never had one, and it was it started with two dudes on a couch, and cut to 10 years later, the Game Grumps brand encompasses like the content they make, merch. They have live action content. They have 3 touring live shows that are all designed differently, like an animator game show, a live version of what they do on YouTube that interacts with the audience, and then other sort of shows with YouTubers. They have 2 touring musical acts. They have a touring company because they weren't feeling supported or facilitated when they first started touring. So they made their own touring company for YouTube entertainers, and they have their own video game development wing. They have like all these things. And it started with 2 guys playing video games, not even current, but like, like retro mostly, or like weird old games. Right. And yeah, so there's like, I see that as like, there's something, I guess, for consistency and improving and learning and just having some sort of vision that is more focused, because they have made certain changes with like equipment, or they just moved to a new studio, and they have different like other ways they present the brand, but it's it's like, it's weird to think like, this company that has like almost every medium of entertainment under its umbrella was started by like a high school dropout.
Yeah, just for fun, because they thought it was fun and funny. Yeah. Or like, it seems like there really is no good model for, it seems like you got to have an idea that you're into, because people pick up on that. And that's like where it ends. Like, what else do you need? You don't need good audio. You don't need good video. You don't, I mean, I think you need people, you got to have something that people are going to pick up on. But then I think the thread, like what you were saying, is like they put in work and time to build it to where they're like, oh yeah, people are into this, so let's do something over here, let's do this over here, let's make this happen. And it wasn't like they were super successful before they started doing all that stuff. It's like, okay, this is gaining momentum, we got to capitalize on it, so let's do this. Or like, I don't know, man.
Yeah.
I don't know anything.
Well, yeah, and
But
it's so hard to scale it because it's not like more and more people are being exposed to non-traditional job, structures where there's no like, oh yeah, you start, you know, delivering the mail and then you work your way up to CEO. Like,
right,
there's no
right,
like,
the classic start in the mailroom.
you were an
Yeah, there's no
intern
real
20 years
model.
ago, and yeah, it's it's like, there's all these companies that are investing in like content houses, whether it's like, like Phase Clan having their weird like Cash App house or whatever. It literally just says on the
Hmm.
side like the Phase Cash App building or
Yeah.
whatever. And like, you know the TikTok, like the hype house, all these TikTokers living together and just screaming at each other in 30-second
Hmm.
intervals. um it's weird, and it's like it's weird, but it's also it makes me think like, okay, if that equals an income, then anything can be an income. like
Right. Yeah.
that's
Anything can
crazy.
be an income these days. You don't even need, I mean, I was driving to a gig a couple of weeks ago and this like SUV passed me and it said like Jenny's turning 17, and then it had like her Venmo like written on the side of the car. And it was like, it's my birthday, Venmo me. I'm gonna put that on my car and drive around. That's an income. That's, I mean, potential income.
Yep.
So it's like there's lots of opportunities. It seems like to be monetizing anything really. I mean, that's it's like the I don't know. It like I thought about her car wasn't that nice. So, but I was like, if you put that like on a real nice, like I turned 16, this is my new, brand new Jeep that daddy bought me.
Yeah.
Send me Venmo so I can put gas in it. It's like, that's not cool, but it's almost like putting the sign up to say Venmo is almost the equivalent of like holding a piece of cardboard.
Right.
You know,
Well, and then you have like the people who gave money to Kylie Jenner just so that she could officially become a billionaire. And it's like, okay,
yeah,
so people will literally just give their money for literally no reason. So why not
right.
give
There
them
was
any reason? Like just give them a reason.
right, right, totally. There's that comedian that was like, give me $1 million for like, yeah, this was like 2006 or something. And somebody was just like, okay. And they gave him, he like started a YouTube channel. And he's like, send me $1 million. I want to be a millionaire. Send me $1 million. I was like, this guy's freaking brilliant, but it's not going to work twice. It's
Right. Yeah, it's wild. I mean, I just saw this Australian graffiti artist, Lush Sucks is his Instagram handle. SUX, Lush Sucks. And he, he makes like very like memeable graffiti, like, just doing dumb topical stuff, or like, you know, uh he he made 50 Cent mad because he kept making all these mashups of like, like it's Guy Fieri, and it's like Guy Fieri's hair and outfit with 50 Cent's face, and then like
yes.
just like the dumbest things. But he recently put up his Instagram, like all the posts showing the artwork and whatever other posts he made. He put up his Instagram, all for almost 4,500 posts over however long he's had an Instagram, He put them all up as NFTs, and he's made like $2 million so far.
Oh,
And it's just like, what?
yeah. I remember we were talking about that at a gig a while ago. I don't understand the NFT thing at all. I don't get it, man. Like, it blows my mind to think that people spend money on like a very tiny amount of code,
Yeah.
because that's all it is. It's like code that you could fit, like, it's probably not even a gigabyte worth of code. It's probably like 56K amount, because it's got to be a certain pixel size, right? Doesn't it? For it to be
Right.
and then there's got to be code written around it to make sure that it's unique and safely one of a kind. But I mean, the money that people have and they spend on this, it makes zero sense to me.
It's, I see it as like a blending of like, you know, because there's people nowadays who like, you know, they obviously grew up understanding like, oh yeah, if I buy a skin for my character in The Sims, like that, the only capital that has is to flex on my friends. Is like, oh yeah, I got the gold
Right.
Millennium suit and you don't. And then, you know, rich people have always kind of bought art to do the same thing. Like they'll drop millions of dollars on a piece just to say they dropped millions of dollars on a piece and not really understand art. Or they hired an interior decorator to like use their budget to buy a collection or something. And like it's like those type of intersections of like people who have always spent money on virtual items that they find value in, and then people who have lots of money where they, you know, $1 million is like $10 to them. And
Right.
it's like, okay, that's a weird intersection. And it's, I guess it's possible, and it just shows this weird way that like, okay, people, I don't know, it's like it like it's less in, well, I guess there's, you know, digital art, but like in some cases, you know, like with Lush Sucks, it's just photos of his graffiti. It's not like you own the graffiti. You just own the
Right.
picture of the graffiti. And there's also, I don't really understand the copyright of it. Like, is there utility in an NFT, or can you just make more NFTs? Or is it only that, okay, I'm going to hold on to this until the demand increases and then maybe I'll try and auction it off again for more money or something?
Right. Yeah. My understanding was if you made an NFT, it would be the only one of its kind.
Right.
So that it would have to be verified, original, and I mean, yeah, maybe in 10 years it would be worth, I mean, maybe it is an investment for somebody thinking that way, but it's not like buying a bunch of Bitcoin or um I mean, it's similar because they use the same kind of blockchain stuff, but um like it's just a piece of art that you can look at, and I don't even know if you're allowed to like print it out, make a hard copy of it,
Right.
or what, you know, do you got to keep it in your like digital wallet and just be like, well, this is an asset that I have that I you know, at some point sell if it's worth anything, or is it something that you can actually be like, okay, this is, I bought it as code and turned it into something physical that I can now look at without having to open my phone or use electricity.
Yeah. it's like, I feel like there's an element of I remember hearing a story of T-Pain getting he got paid money from a company. I think he said like a little over $15,000, and all they wanted him to do was make like a little ad they could run on socials, uh, promoting a club he's never been to. And it was purely because the club needed to, or I guess the company that owned the club, um, they were trying to spend that money before the next fiscal year or whatever, to get to be able to like parlay that into more of a budget for the next year. And so it's like, okay, so some people might just be literally just like trying to move money around, and this is another way to move money.
Right.
And it's weird.
It's bonkers. I don't get it. I mean, who knows? It seems like I definitely don't know where things are headed next. What do you think? Where do you think things are headed as far as like, I mean, creatively, we're musicians, we're still making music, but like, what avenues are you thinking of pursuing as far as like getting to the next?
I know I've always wanted things I could do wherever. So getting more invested in some sort of online presence, whether it's just through podcasting, but also videos, social media, the Patreon. I've known about Patreon since it started, and I've seen people from video game companies to people like Amanda Palmer to all these people finding, or like Tim Dillon in the last year, this comedian, he makes like 150 some thousand a month off of just Patreon. And it's literally just people. There's a $5 tier and a $20 tier. That's it. It's like you get one bonus episode, or with the $20 you get one bonus audio a week, and then one bonus video a month. And it's like, okay, so it's not like they're paying a ton of money. So there's a lot of people who must have like found him through the internet and just latched onto that. Or, like Mark Rebier, like being able to sell out the Royal Oak when I went and saw him, and he's just born out of the internet, basically.
Yeah.
Or, it's between like Wolfpack or Scary Pockets, or all these people who are able to like kind of take their personality and like present it in these different spaces in like content people want to watch. There's something to be said more than, I don't know, like only having like, because you can have like, oh, I'm mostly offline, I'm local, or I'm regional, and that can work. But there's also an opportunity to put stuff out there and just see like who grabs onto it, because you might end up with like like the video game company I'm thinking of, Kind of Funny. They have like a producer tier where like you can become like a featured sponsor, and then on top of that, if you have a product, they'll advertise it on your podcast, or on their podcasts. And most of their content is it's like podcasting, live streaming, and YouTube. And then they go to some live events that also help facilitate more content, but they don't even have like the biggest number of subscribers. They just have like they have enough patrons to bring in tens of thousands of dollars a month in just from Patreon, and then they have enough of an audience where they like, oh, Squarespace, okay, this percentage of people use this code, or that Dollar Shave
So you get
Club.
right. So you get all that affiliate kind of kickback
Yeah.
from that stuff.
So, and there'll be more, like not every business will adopt it, but more businesses I feel like are going to see the value of the regional content creator, someone who knows how to like take an idea and sell it to an audience, or just communicate it in general and in a medium that they're trying, because there's always that joke of like some old dude trying to make a hip young ad for the teens. And it just like falls completely flat because he's never run into a teenager since his kids were teens.
Right. Right. And I'm like, I'm trying to work a way for C3. That's like the exact scenario that C3 is basically in. It's like they want younger people, but they don't have any younger people to inform them on how to get the attention of more younger people. And so it's like, this thing is like, oh, we're gonna put this Facebook ad out, and it's like, no kid is using Facebook. Nobody, like, no younger, if they are, it's like, so you can't. What is it they always say? Like the solution to a problem doesn't come from the same place that created it. Like you can't solve a problem the same mind frame that made the problem happen in the first place.
Yeah.
But it seems like there's so many avenues to be creative and to just keep pushing and putting stuff in front of people's faces or in their ears, or it's exciting, man.
Yeah, I'm definitely looking forward to seeing what things happen, what stuff gets added to the creative tool set, and I guess what people do with, more access to gear and home production and all these types of things. But yeah, it's exciting. But yeah, this was a great chat about
oh yeah, totally, man.
creative
I really
production.
appreciate you. Yeah, I appreciate you having me on. It's really exciting.
Yeah, no problem. Do you know where should people find you if you want them to find you, or should they look up C3 or what? I include links to, so whatever.
Okay, sure. I would. I don't have anything really. At the moment, there's not really a good reason for anyone to find me, but I do. Sure. I have profiles on Facebook. But yeah, C3 West Michigan is like my day job. They're a cool spiritual community that's not religious, but very spiritual and open, and it's right here in Grand Haven. There's a lot of good stuff that happens there all the time. Lots of people that we work with play there. Lots of cool talks, inspiring things. I think, if you're putting links, send people to C3 because it's a good place to go.
Yeah, I could definitely do that. Well, yeah, thanks again for coming on, and I'm sure I'll see you.
See you tomorrow, right?
Oh yeah, for the wedding gig. Yeah,
yeah,
literally tomorrow.
Yeah.
In what he was talking about regarding that. And as always, you can support me through patreon.com/DutcherSnedeker. You can go to DutcherSnedeker.com to see everything else. You can find all my socials through that as well. And you can, like, follow, subscribe, all the different indicators of interacting with the different podcasts on whatever platform. It all helps me out. And we'll see you in the next episode of Mitten Backstage. Take care.